Hello, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to welcome you to this workshop where we'll explore the 5 foundations of business operations. So in this event, we're going to learn how to build a business that grows sustainably without burning you out. And we'll break down what strong operational foundations look like and why they matter from day one with real examples and actionable takeaways. My name is Liz Manirakiza. I am the program coordinator here at CanWCC, and I live and work on the lands of the Tsuut'ina, Stoney Nakoda, and Blackfoot nations, as well as the Métis Nation in a region covered by Treaty 7, colonially known as Calgary, Alberta. The Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce, or CanWCC, is the first and only chamber of commerce for women-identified and gender-diverse owners in Canada. And as a Chamber of Commerce, we represent your needs with the government, and our position and title as a chamber gives us access to people who impact change. We exist to improve the quality of life for the over 1 million entrepreneurial Canadian women through advocacy with policymakers, and we aim to build a healthier and more inclusive Canadian economy. And we are here to amplify the stories and voices of women-identified and gender-diverse entrepreneurs and to fight for their economic equity. Today, let me introduce to you our host, CanWCC member, Nana Obeng. So Nana is a business operations expert dedicated to helping women-led businesses build structure, stability, and scalable operations. As an engineer, entrepreneur, and MBA graduate, she brings over 15 years of experience leading operations and developing business solutions across pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, and startup sectors. Her expertise spans people management, financial management, and supply chain management. So from vendor and supply coordination to last mile delivery. And as a former co-founder of an e-commerce feminine hygiene brand, she combines entrepreneurial insight with corporate expertise to optimize system and processes that drive sustainable growth. My goodness, and we are so lucky to have you here. So welcome
Thank you
and
so much.
take the lead.
All right, let's get started here. Thank you so much for joining this afternoon. I'm confident that the information I'm going to share today is going to definitely help you to build your business, grow your business, and help you to realize the success financially and personally that you're looking for, that you've been working for, and that you should expect. Definitely, I want to go and introduce myself in my own way. A lot of people will ask me, okay, so what is it that you do? And most of the time, the way in which I express myself is basically sharing that I partner with women-led business and I help them to lead, build, and grow their businesses. And I go across different sectors, so industry agnostic. But the reason why I express myself in this way, the service delivery would be through fractional services, fractional operational services, is because the brand of fractional COO that I deliver is really about looking at the long-term vision of the business owner, rather than simply looking at operational excellency and streamlining. And so I look at the whole entire business, and of course, operational improvements come along naturally. It's inherent with building and growing businesses. And when I'm partnering with these ambitious women, I love doing this because of a few reasons. One in particular is that they have a unique strength. People like you have unique strengths in that there is a great balance between human intelligence, the technical intelligence, and emotional intelligence. And as a result of that, women have a tendency to deliver products and services to a broader audience, a broader customer base, and just have a unique experience that maybe hasn't been shared with us in the past. And these women also are obviously ambitious, like yourself. And we know that in this day and age, women are still, holding the brunt of the responsibilities domestically, let's call it. And so you need a strong partner that understands that experience, that journey without explaining it, and to help you balance the ambition and the realities of life. And so these are the reasons why I love partnering with women and helping them to win and succeed and get to their goals. Of course, it's already been mentioned, some of my background. I'll just say that this combination really lends itself well to building business, right? One from the analytical space and strategic space, and the other from just the true living experience of building an organization, understanding the anxieties, the excitement of building business. One last thing I'll share is the way in which I would say offer my services in two buckets. One as a strategic and thought partner. So a business owner has a particular vision. Let's say they're bringing a new product into the market, and my job is to understand that vision, understand the realities of the existing capacity, capabilities, human resources, and build a roadmap that allows the business owner to actually achieve that goal, to actually realize the goal. So building the roadmap to understand what it actually is going to take in terms of marketing, finance, et cetera, and also lead that execution to realize it. And naturally, what is the result of doing that? Of course, you are going to have continuous improvement in order to get to the end goal. So that's enough about me, I think, and let's get down to business and talk about business operations. So oftentimes when we talk about business operations, it's very broad. It's a very broad topic, which is true because the reality is that business operations is everything that is required to deliver your product or service, okay? From the beginning to the end, to collecting that check that we're all hoping for. It is a combination of the people, processes, tools, all of those things. And inside the business operation, you have four clear functions of every business: the marketing, sales, the operations, the actual activity that brings the value, and then the customer service piece, understanding and ensuring that you are bringing value to your customers. And so you have these functions, and inside or underneath those functions, you've got all of the processes and tools that are integrated to make up what business operations actually are. In business operations, oftentimes you'll hear people say, I'm trying to streamline my business. I want to streamline my business. So, what's that actually mean? Well, streamlining really is about reducing redundancies, reducing inefficiencies, finding ways to eliminate waste. And there are some great frameworks out there. You may have heard of them, like the lean framework, which talks about how to set up a business and identify specific areas of waste, like wasting time, overproduction, these kinds of things. And so when you're streamlining your business operation, that is all those functions that we talked about, it's about identifying where you can remove these redundancies, et cetera, so that you ensure that everything that you are doing in your business is driving direct value. There's clear outcomes that are coming from the effort that you are putting into the business. In the early stages, typically, you have these areas that I like to call danger zones. So one area would be that revenue is growing fast, but the back end is a little shaky. So one wrong move and things start to fall apart. Maybe it's a missed delivery, maybe it's a poor onboarding, something like that. One of the other areas is the founder will also have, too many things on their plate. They are overworked and wearing all the hats. Yes, in the beginning, it is necessary for the CEO to be doing those things, right? Your resource constraint, you're building, of course. But what I'm talking about is at that point where you really need to start reevaluating what your role is and what role you're playing in the business. And then the last area that I find is that there is a fear of, in fact, success, right? Oh, well, what if I grow too fast? I'm going to lose control. So these are some areas in which people find themselves, women find themselves in, that can be considered danger zones if you don't really have good control of these foundations. And so these are the foundations that we want to talk about today. The foundations are critical. When you lay solid, robust foundations, it is easy to build on top of that, to scale your business, to grow your business. And so we're going to look at five, and then we'll talk a little bit more in detail about some other ones. And let's go into our first foundation. And this is about clarifying your core offer. And so when you have a product or service, there are a multitude of things that you could probably be selling. And the idea here is to make sure that you are focused in on one or two things. Okay. So I'm saying one or two, it depends on what your business is, but go with me here, one or two, a few things to focus in on. And the reason for that is because you are trying to, in these early stages, you're trying to get good at what you're delivering, right? You're trying to deliver the best product, the best service. And the way to do that is to have a good understanding of what the client or customer actually wants and making sure that you are delivering that. It is easy to do that when you're focused on one or two at a time so that you can focus in on the marketing. The marketing is focused toward a particular client. The finance can be tracked in a way that is not overwhelming, that is not going to burn you out in the end. So this is part of the reason why you want to be focusing on one or two offers at a time. And then, of course, alongside that, you want to put some boundaries around those offers. You want to describe what is in scope and what is not in scope. The reason for this is for clarity for yourself as the first thing. And then, of course, for clarity for that potential client. You want to be able to define what is it that I'm actually offering? What is it that I'm capable of offering in this moment? So having clear boundaries is a great way to stay in control of what it is that you are building. And I would say that it lends itself very well to progressive pricing. And so if you have a particular offer and you've defined what is in scope for you, maybe those things that are out of scope become part of a new pricing, new offer, etc. Right? So you bring people along with you as you bring value to your clients and customers and as you build that trust. So let's take a look at an example, a very practical example here. So let's say you're a marketing consultant and you've decided that what you are offering is a 90-day marketing strategy implementation for B2B businesses. Who are you offering it for? Well, you've decided that it's B2B SaaS startups with a particular revenue range. And this is important, right? Getting really specific about who it is that you're actually speaking to and targeting. I think there's sometimes a temptation to try to sell to many people. And in fact, it's sort of like the golden rule. If you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one, right? You really have to know who it is that you are trying to target. And trust me, others will follow as time goes on. So there's no fear there. What you've decided is that your price point for this particular offer is 15,000 for a 90-day engagement. And you've also described what's included and what's excluded. So included is really about the thinking, the planning, strategy, and the excluded items are things like execution. So these are the items that lend itself really well to new offers, as I mentioned, or additional partnerships. Think people you may know in your community to do collaborations with that they can offer certain pieces that maybe they're better at and really brings more value to your business and to theirs, right? And that just builds the relationships as well. The second foundation here is around the process and systems. And so when we are thinking about our business, the first and one of the most important things to do in order to really have a good handle on the business is to document the process. Your process may be extremely complex. And so you may want to focus in on one particular area of that process. But I always say it's best to go high level, right? From the very beginning where you are maybe providing a proposal to the moment where you are invoicing and collecting the fees that you have quoted. So you want to be able to document things to understand and to have clarity again for yourself. Many of the activities are really, in fact, for yourself. Many people don't recognize that, but that is true. So you want to document this process, and you want to keep it simple, right? It is there for you to get the clarity, for you to be able to communicate easily what you do and how you do it to other people. And also, one thing you want to be thinking about is that in this process, you're trying to aim for the 80-20 kind of rule. 80% of the time, you want to be delivering consistently. You want to ensure that that process is consistent and robust, right? There are very few tweaks, very little rework that you really need to be doing in that process. So here's an example of a very high level process flow that talks about the business of a photographer. This is a photography service, and these are the main activities that are included in this process. On top of that, what has been added is the duration, and we'll get into the duration and some of the other things that you can add. But here, what I'm trying to demonstrate is that it is helpful for you to have a visual representation of what it is that is going on. Don't try to document your ideal situation in the beginning. Document what is going on, because you are going to use this tool to make further improvements, right? You want to get the truth down on paper, let's say, so that you can move forward. Let's just take a look at one other example. So this is for a custom doll making business, okay? It is not in the more linear representation that many people are used to seeing as part of a process flow, but the intention is the same. So you've got the various steps. Another layer that's been added is about what does that step include? A little bit of a description of what is this, and of course, the duration. And so what I will say about this type of documentation is that there are a few things you can do with it. One, as I said, is this is a visual representation for yourself to understand the truth about your business, how you actually go from the starting point to your end point, which is collecting your fees. What you want to be able to do on top of that is not only have that for clarity, but you want to be able to use this in future to make changes to your business. So rather than just making the changes, going by gut, which we can do, and oftentimes in the early stages, it generally works, right? We're small enough to do it, but you want to build those great foundational habits now, because what you do now is what you're going to do into the future. So you want to be able to use this as a tool to make decisions before on paper, before you actually start executing, which is hiring, buying new software and new tools. Think about, how does this fit into my process? Where is it going to fit in? An example is, this custom doll making. Maybe there's a specific type of doll you want to now bring into the market. Rather than just saying you're going to do it, buying new materials, whatever is required there, you can look at your process and understand who is making it. What is that resource load for me? Okay, well, we have one person, Jane, who's a specialist in this. Is she going to also work on this other type of doll? It helps you to understand that resource load, the capacity, other tools, other systems that you might need before you actually make those changes. And then the third thing, when we look at process mapping, is the sort of official term, we can use this in the continuous improvement exercise, right? So you are able to identify those bottlenecks, where there are which things are taking too long. For example, in our photography services business, maybe you've decided that, you know what, editing and delivery, 3 to 5 days is too long. We need to shorten that. And the reason for that is because we need to get that cash flow happening faster. And so that's where you're going to analyze and start thinking about, how can we tighten up that time frame? Which tools could we use to improve on that? So you're going to use this process map in so many different ways. And one other thing I would suggest is, if you're working with somebody in finance or in marketing and they want to know about your business, This is a tool that you can use to communicate how you are conducting your business, how you are getting things done. It's a great starting point. It helps to gain focus and also gives you opportunity to get feedback from people on things that maybe you did not realize before. They might be able to highlight some different areas of your business that you weren't thinking about. When you've got your process map and you're clear on that, you are obviously starting to think about the systems and the new tools that you want to start including as part of really building a robust foundation. And again, the way to start this is you document the process, excuse me, you analyze for efficiencies, where are things taking too long, where am I, overburdening one or two people. I'm trying to identify where that waste is, where the friction is through that process map. And then you were going to start thinking about the technologies that might be able to help you to improve these areas where friction exists. The idea here is that you would be building these tools or acquiring the tools and the systems so that you can continue to grow the business in a way that is not overwhelming because the system is already in place and it's just a matter of increasing revenues, increasing volume. You already have the tools that can handle this increased capacity because you're doing things in a very systematic way. When we're talking about tools, there are some core business tools that I'm sure you have heard of. You've got your CRM, your customer relationship management tools, and there are lots of great systems out there, but I'm just going to highlight a few. So you could be working with HubSpot, which is fantastic. Every time somebody sends you an email, you're able to automatically log that information. The CRM helps you to really manage your customers and clients, understand their behaviors in terms of their habits based on notes that you are taking, understand if you have a potential lead, how strong that lead is, really building structure just around customers, right? Back end information for you that you're going to be able to use to know how to have relationships with them, navigate relationships with them, and build and sell to them. And then you have project management systems. There are again lots of them to use from to look at, and these project management systems are there to help you to track projects, right? They're help you to track activities. Again, the idea is to build structure around your business that is controllable, right? When it's controlled, it's structured, then it becomes robust and reliable. And that's where that consistency is going to lie. So depending on what types of service, what types of business, these are, tools that you may or may not use depending on what you're delivering. And then finally, of course, finances, we can never get away from it. You've got QuickBooks, obviously, that is out there, very well known to track, again, structure that allows you to extract information that's going to give you information about your business. To the purpose is to allow you to make decisions moving forward. You can use things like Stripe and PayPal also as a means of collecting fees from your customers. So these are the core business tools that most businesses would have and should consider. And then you've got the communication and marketing tools. There are several. You've got Calendly for scheduling. There's lots of other ones out there, but that's very popular in terms of marketing and doing email blasts and informing your customers or clients about sales, or maybe it's inspirational. Maybe it is a tip, something that you're doing for your therapy practice. You could be using something like MailChimp. Maybe you have a lot of inventory and you want to understand in generally real time what's being sold, what's there, what's not just the final product, but all the raw materials, all the things that are required to actually make your product, deliver the product. And so these systems are available, again, to maintain structure for you, to minimize that feeling of overwhelm because it is already built in an organized fashion. And what I would say is that because there are so many tools, this is where we can use ChatGPT or any other LLM and describe the business that you're in, describe your constraints, and tell chat, we'll use chat as the example here, that you are looking for XYZ, whatever that tool happens to be. You can ask the LLM to rank what are the best options for you, considering your constraints and considering the options that you're thinking about. It is much easier to get the LLM to just scrape the internet and provide that information for you to minimize the amount of decisions that you have to make. Yes, it is quite easy to just do what everyone else is doing, but might not be the best application for you. I'll give you one quick example. Zapier is a great tool for connecting, but there's also Maker, and Maker is bringing more value, right? So when you are constrained by cost, you want to make sure that you are looking at the tools that are best for you in your business at this time. And if you cannot get the top of the line, try to understand how you can easily move from, let's say, Maker might be just as good, but from one platform to another. Is it easy to do that? And how would you do that as you build and grow your business? That's one question you want to be asking. Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, quick question here we have from Sarah. What was the inventory system you suggested
Oh,
for products and materials needed for the business?
yeah, WooCommerce I've used. Shopify is also very simple. Shopify is very common, I think, for a lot of e-commerce businesses. A lot of fractionals are using that as well. You can see your inventory. You can categorize the inventory in great detail. You're able to understand the activity of that inventory over time. So there's some sort of indirect financial components also related to it. Shopify is very common, easy to use. WooCommerce is a little bit more. I mean, it's not difficult, but I think there's just a little bit more to it, and I think Shopify interface maybe is a bit more appealing. So yeah. And I would say, you know what, even just go on chat or Google and just type these platforms and into the search engine and see if you can get YouTubes on them, see what they look like, look at the ones that might resonate with you before you go down a deeper path. So great. All right, so let's look at this foundation around early teen building. And here, what we want is to make sure that there's real clarity when you're building your teams. And so, what I'm meaning here is that when you're hiring, first and foremost, you want to be able to hire strategically. You don't want to just hire out of convenience, out of frustration. For example, oftentimes, those who are starting their businesses are hiring lots of VAs, okay, the virtual assistants. And these VAs have their place, but they are there to execute tasks, very specific tasks. But you will not get what you ultimately need because maybe you need somebody who's more of a strategic thinker or someone who can make decisions on their own. And so when you are hiring, you need to think beyond this moment in time. What is the gap that I'm trying to fill in this moment? And how can I also take advantage of maybe hiring somebody who can fill that gap now and move with me into the future if it works well? So you want to be thinking about that. You want to also be thinking about clear expectations. And so what does that look like? It means that when you have a team, you need to be able to communicate what it is you want from them. These things sound very simple, but it happens over and over again, right? You're overwhelmed, you're trying to do a lot of things, there's a lot of pressure, and you ask people to just like figure it out, do your best, and they deliver things that you don't want. Then you become frustrated as well. It is going to save everyone a lot of time and energy if you are able to clearly outline what your expectation is. And it is a very fair thing to do because the person on your team can then deliver what you want, or maybe they won't deliver what you want, which also is information for you. You understand what their capabilities are, what capacity they have. This is all information as part of you really growing your business in a sustainable way without the overwhelm. The other thing is thinking about structuring your teams. And so I'm thinking mostly about freelancers, right? You're hiring freelancers or independent contractors. And in fact, you should really be thinking of them as being a part of a team, right? Yes, they're working independently, but what you want for them to understand is you're a part of, let's say, operations, right? When you're small, it's kind of usually marketing operations, two teams. This way that there is communication within that team to whatever degree you think makes sense, and there is not a redundancy of work, right? There's not two people on your team working on the same things. There's a bit more smooth communication, and then there's some level of accountability as well. When people understand what their place is, what the expectations are, they're going to perform better, they're going to feel more confident, and they're going to be able to deliver more than they would if they're just floundering around, doing nothing. And also, this is part of great leadership. People want somebody to lead, very strongly and to give them guidance with respect to their roles because they want to perform well and give you what you're looking for. And so there's sort of two things that you can do as part of this clarity. One is building an org chart. Building an org chart is another visual representation. It helps you to get clarity, become clear on who is on my team, where do they fit, what is their role, what are their duties, why are we doing this? Well, one, again, for clarity. Two, it's to think about the future. Okay, these are the people. Now you can see visually either you are heavy, on the marketing side or heavy in marketing in a very specific area. It stands out very easily for you and helps you to make decisions moving forward in terms of hiring new staff, new employees, new subcontractors, whatever it happens to be. In terms of the job description, for me in the early stages, these two things are critical. Again, it's the key responsibilities, outlining what are those 3 to 5 main things this person needs to do. It needs to be clear to you and it needs to be clear to them. There's going to be minimal amount of time that's wasted, minimal frustration if we are all clear on what the tasks are. And this is where that confidence comes from you and from the person delivering the work. In terms of the required skills and experience, you don't have to go and have this massive job description, but the idea here is that you want to be able to understand what's going to be beneficial in this role in terms of their skills and their experience. Sometimes you hire somebody, or you may have somebody who who's doing good enough work in marketing, let's say social media management, but then you realize that, what would be really beneficial if the person had some understanding of finance. Let's say you're running a finance consultancy and you're doing some marketing around that. And you recognize that if the person had some basic background on this, that would be helpful. So again, it's really about having clarity in your mind, like what is really required for this role and what would be beneficial for me moving forward, right? You're always thinking about how you're going to push forward in a way that is going to be manageable and in a way that is controlled. And so again, there's lots of systems, there are lots of tools out there available for you to use. You can be really old school and there's nothing wrong with being old school, but you can be really old school and just use the Microsoft Suite, right? Go in there, use a Word document, write a simple job description. You can use one of these platforms, and what it does, it helps to, again, build structure, right? It also provides a place for you to have let's say a portal or a location where this type of information resides. Again, as you're building the business, what you're trying to do is build good structure to ensure that the business operation is smooth and robust. The org charts also, you could use Canva, you could use boxes if you wanted in Word, but the idea is to have visual representations for yourself so you can understand who is really a part of your team and who is not, that needs to be a part of the team, right? It's about planning and moving forward. These exercises are not just writing exercises for fun. They may or not for fun. They may feel like that in the beginning, but trust me, there is something about documenting things that really provides a lot of clarity for yourself, allows you to make great decisions as you move forward, and allows you to have confidence in what you have and where you're going. Um, Sometimes that confidence is highlighting also what you don't have, right? And to me, that is power, understanding, at least having an understanding of what you're capable of in this moment. If you don't know what you don't know, it's very difficult to make solid decisions that are going to move your business forward. The next foundation say is highly critical, and this is about protecting your time. There is a lot of discipline that's required in doing this. So there's rituals, routines that are going to be required of you in order to protect your time, to have thinking time that is strategic, where you're also thinking not just about the business, like how are we going to make more money, but thinking about the people, because the people ultimately are indirectly impacting your revenue as well. So you need to be able to have time set aside for yourself to be able to think through the week and think through the year and think through the month, that kind of a thing, and make new plans. And I will tell you that this is definitely a boss move. Okay. This idea of setting time aside for you to be thinking clearly is definitely a boss move. If you watch and look at other women-led businesses that are truly successful, they are taking time that they have blocked out. Nothing can interfere with that. And they are spending time thinking about how they're moving the business forward. That is what a CEO does. You are not trying to project manage your business into success. What you're trying to do is lead with intention, grow it, right? And get the success that you're looking for. And maybe that's not a massive empire. Maybe it's an empire in your mind, but it's success nonetheless. And this is time that is definitely needed for you to move your business forward. If you're not thinking about where you're going, it means that you are living a very reactive life and just making decisions on the fly, which may not be going toward real goals that you should have set out for yourself. So when you think about this and you think about the fact that you feel like maybe you are not able to do this, you need to be thinking about why that is. Why is it that I don't have the time or I'm not disciplined? You need to uncover that, and then after you've done that, there are some very practical ways in which you can change that, right? You can time block. You have to start deciding what you are delegating. And as you do that, your teams are also going to recognize what is necessary to come to you and what is not. So understanding where your shortcomings are with respect to having that type of discipline is the first step. And then rolling out very practical steps and tactics to find that time where you are able to think for your business and for yourself. And then the last foundation is really about finances. And you just can't escape it. Okay. You have to know, in order to grow your business, you got to know where it is financially, right? You need to know that the financial health of your business. And this is really about just tracking where you're at. And what I'm going to do is skip here to basically something that summarizes it right now, which is understanding how much money is coming in and how much money is going out. That's the first step. You need to have it written down somewhere to understand what is happening. And you want to be able to break it down by your specific offerings, your specific like products or services. When you get to the next level, you can then dig deeper and understand, okay, this is my revenue. It's going to start to look more like your P&L, your profit loss statement. You are going to start documenting, I've got, these three services, these three products. Here is what I'm making. Here is what I made last month, this month, what that changes. And what's going to really give value to this spreadsheet is writing down the insights and the actions around that change. What happened? For example, let's say, last November, we did great. It's Black Friday. We've made all these sales. And you make notes about this. Well, the reason why we made the sales is because we discounted by 30% and it's Black Friday. So the market has an expectation to buy at that time. And so your volumes are going to be higher. Then you can take it a step further and say, okay, well, how was our performance last Black Friday? Was it as good, right? It gives you information to be able to understand where your business is at and where it needs to go. And so if you're working with somebody who is, let's say it's a financial, a fractional CFO, they can take this information, right, and go even deeper and create some financial ratios. And these ratios are the ones that really help to understand where your business is at, right? Where are you spending your money? Are you spending too much money operating the business? And also, it's going to help that financial person to build models into the future. What is it going to look like 3 to 5 years? How can we strategically get there? What are the things that we need to cut back on? How many sales? Where are we going to get the sales? This is all going to drive your next steps, right? It's all going to play into the strategy. Okay, if we need to hit these targets, we need more marketing, we need less people, we need more automation. This is why this financial piece is so important. And even if the revenue is less than 100,000, you need to start building those foundational habits that are going to help you to move forward in a confident way. And then the next thing is really a bonus for you. So this is about AI tools, and it really falls into processes, which we already talked about. So the first step in understanding where can I use these AI tools, how can I use them, is first documenting what the process is. You go through that same strategy, the framework that I presented, which is documenting the process, understanding where the friction is and where you can get efficiencies. And then you're able to go into the market and understand what AI tools are available for you at your price point that are going to make sense for you to incorporate into your business. The main message here is really about the fact that AI tools, they're fantastic. And I have already made suggestions on how we can use them to our advantage. But what you need to remember is that those tools are going to allow you to see more productivity in many areas, but it is not going to do the strategic thinking. It's not going to allow you to have judgment and to demonstrate the leadership. Those are things that you're still going to need a human to be able to do. So we know that AI tools are amazing, but just be mindful that it's not a magic bullet. It's not going to solve all of your problems. And this is just to show you different levels of automation. We don't really need to go too much into it, but it's just to say there's just different levels of automation available. You can have very, very basic things like a welcome email that's reactive, not much decision making in terms of the automation, and then very independent, the autonomous, the AI agents that people are talking about so much, where they do their independent thinking and decision making for you. So there's a lot of different levels that your business will start to grow into as it grows. And when you again build that great foundation, understand where things are at, where the efficiency needs to be, then you're able to go into the market confidently rather than people bombarding you with information on which tools you should buy and which tools you need to use. The last thing I'll share is about cybersecurity. I believe there's going to be a talk on cybersecurity coming up as well. And what I'll just share is this, that it's really important as you are building your business to think about how you're going to protect it, protect the information of individuals, personal information. It could be notes related to therapy, your therapy practice. It could be financial information as well. And what you want to be able to do is think through what would happen if somebody got access to this. One, how can I mitigate that action? How can I mitigate this problem, this risk? Two, if it doesn't work, who am I going to call? So you want to start building that contact list of folks that you could potentially contact. Like, this got breached. What do I do now? There are lots of certificate programs on cybersecurity as well. Again, you can start your training high level, looking it up online, just the basics. But the message here is understand how you can mitigate risks. What are you going to do? Who are you going to call? Start building that directory of contact individuals and your plan on how you're going to either communicate to your customers, how you're going to compensate them if that's required. Start thinking ahead about what that would mean for you and for your business. So ultimately, this is the plan for your operational excellence. In order to have a solid business operation that is robust, you really need to start with foundations of your operations, the ones that we've talked about, building them in a way that is consistent, that is robust, so that you have confidence in what you're delivering. That involves streamlining your operation, having those essential processes and having the repetitive tasks automated, growing the right team, not just any team. The people aspect is hugely important. And that, I would say, as a cautionary tale, take your time when you're trying to hire and decide who you should be hiring, because it goes a long way. And then, of course, scaling in a smart manner. So, in order to do that, you really do need to understand the financials, the health of your organization, the health of your business, so that you can start to build that plan. I would say that one distinction I would make to folks is that scaling and growing are sort of two different things. Scaling a business, it's about increasing your revenue, right? So that the revenue is higher than those costs. You're constantly increasing. You can do that by using automated tools, et cetera. That's one way. But growing the business is about getting more and more and more revenue, more clients, but you may be investing, right, into your business. You may be spending as well. People use it interchangeably, but I just wanted to throw that out there as a note. And this brings us to the end of our time together. Just wanted to share, as what I do on top of my regular fractional work is love to work with individuals, solo entrepreneurs, or those who have small teams, and who are trying to get clarity in their business. They may be building from scratch in this moment. So I'm providing this special offer. If you wanted to understand a bit more about what I do, have that experience. One is just a clarity session for us to chat, and the other is sort of a 4-week program where we can start to build and understand, put some structure around, and give you direction around where you need to go in your business. The link to take advantage of the offer is going to be in the chat. But reach out to me. I'm happy to link with all of you on LinkedIn as well. And thank you for this time, and welcome any questions you might have.
Does anyone have any questions? This is the moment. Thank you so much, Nana. There was so much information there, and it wasn't just for entrepreneurs. I myself found some of your insight and tools useful for project management. So I want to thank you for that. Go ahead, Tamara.
Hi.
And then Roxanne after.
Great
Sorry.
presentation, Nana. Very
Thank
well
you.
presented and thought through. The offers that you mentioned at the end, are they one-on-one offers, or is it like a group setting similar to what we've done today?
No, it's a one-on-one. It's very specific and targeted toward your business.
Okay, perfect. And then I guess my last question is, What advice do you have for hiring for the future? Because I found myself in a situation where hiring when I need someone, and it's kind of a little chaotic when they come on board, and things get missed or rushed with onboarding because you need things to be, taken off your plate right at the moment. Do you have any advice for that?
Yeah, what I would say is there's a couple things. One, you want to build your network of folks who have access
Mm,
to people that you might need, right? And talk to them about that. Talk to them about the role, what you might need. Talk to them now about what you might need in the future. As that conversation starts going, they're going to be looking out for people subconsciously or like, intentionally or unintentionally.
mm,
And you can, use that time to start thinking about what's necessary at the time that you need them rather than rushing and just, hiring anybody. I think she may have, oh no, she's still there. I thought you dropped off tomorrow. But that's the suggestion I would have. One way of doing that. Also, not everyone loves this, but it is possible to post and see who is out there right
mm,
now,
mm,
and you can be open with them and say, you know what, I'm not actually hiring in this moment, but this is my time frame. I'm thinking I'm hiring maybe 3 months, 4 months, and see what is in the market, see who is out there, what are the skill sets, and it's going to help for you to also get clarity on what you're communicating as what you need, right? You might post something and you're not getting the right resumes or you're not getting the right people contacting you. Maybe there's something that you need to tweak there. So that's what I would suggest is kind of put that effort in now when there's less pressure, and then move forward when it's necessary to pull the trigger. But also, does anybody say that anymore? Probably not. But also, yeah, that's what I would do is I would plan now and sort of actively go through the motions and be honest and open about the timeline that you're looking at to actually hire. If there's more specific questions, then just message me and I'll do my best to help you.
Thank you for those tips.
No problem.
Go ahead, Roxanne.
Hi. Thanks, Nana, for the presentation. I found that really important. I was wondering
No problem.
with the 4 weeks of sessions, can I work in the financial consulting space? I work one-on-one with individuals and small business owners. And I'd be kind of curious. I have a hunch that I need operations help, which is why I came to this
Yes.
call. But I was wondering if
Yeah.
you could provide like an example or a handful of examples, or what are some of the work that you might do with a client in that 4 week session?
Yeah, so I think I pulled it down a little bit too early, but what the way that it would work is we would first understand your business as it is right now. You would go through a questionnaire, answer those questions to understand what are those pain points, what are the goals that you have at the beginning, and then what I would do is set a roadmap or suggestion based on our discussion to say this is the path that we should go forward. What do you think about it? Like it's going to be somewhat collaborative, and then the goals would be set. And what would happen is there's like basically an accountability practice here, right? There may be some templates or starter kits that I would provide to you, right, or create for you to allow you to move forward with that. But all of this is really going to be based on the assessment. The
Of course.
assessment is like the key to everything, right? Yeah, obviously financials, you know this, right? So, and then it would be a weekly back and forth understanding what happened last week, where are we going next week, what are those roadblocks, but understanding where the business is at, what is the actual goal, and building a roadmap to get to that goal. So that might include, as I mentioned, some tools that I might create for you, or some sort of minor, like light execution, some sort of minor assistance that you might need to get to that point. I would say the way that I work, I'm very resourceful. And so sometimes it's hard to describe specifically what people need. I'll give you an example. I worked with an organization, a not-for-profit. We were getting into it. They need a massive number of volunteers. What they knew generally how many sort of kinda they needed. And what
Yeah.
we did was we built a volunteer schedule, right?
Oh.
Like that's not something I could predict that she needed, but in talking to her and understanding this need, I set up let's say a template of sorts that allowed me to understand how many people, what are the major events, what to build that kind of schedule, which leaned into what are the job descriptions, building structure and systems and format for them to execute regularly in the same fashion. So that's like, you know, something that I would not anticipate, but that it's about building those robust systems for whatever it is that you need.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you for all your questions. We have one last question from Sarah. Can you define what a fractional CEO is once again?
Yeah, the fractional COO is basically a part-time chief operating officer. And so means that we work on a, you know, part-time basis. Many folks will do 2 to 3 days per week, or in the form of a retainer, a bucket of hours. So 10 hours a month, 15 hours a month. And what they're doing is understanding your operation, finding those efficiencies, working with you to understand how you can build structure, how you can incorporate new systems, when to incorporate those systems. So the main idea is essentially the right hand to the CEO or the business owner. CEO knows what they want. They're having troubles getting there. And the COO is the one is practically implementing, getting the ideas to build the structure to actually get to the end goal. And so that's the fractional piece. It just means a part of the time rather than hiring somebody full time.
Once again, I do want to thank you, Nana, for coming on board. I can just
Thank you
tell
for
by
the
all the
invitation.
people who put questions in the chat and came out at the end that this was really valuable to them.